Hello everyone, I am here to speak about a couple of things that I did mention that I was going to share earlier today in another group of mine, which is a secret group where I have all of my beautiful True Brow salon owners. But I mentioned it to them, so I felt like I was compelled to actually follow through. So this is why I'm doing this. But you know, today we had a huge day. We are dealing with a new offering in one of our brands, and of course, if you're in business, you're building a brand, you know what it's like when you're putting together new offerings. You need sales pages, content, you need videos, you need decisions. Everyone's got to be working together, and you're making hundreds of decisions, almost it feels like that, in one day. Like, it's just unbelievable. In the midst of all of that, I had some education that I had to do for one of my beauty brands. Loved that. Spoke to a couple of amazing women from internationally. So I've had a really big day. And out of the blue, my gorgeous husband, who is, by the way, 11 years younger than me, and you know, we have the dearest, sweetest relationship. And I'm going to tell you how we do that, even as we're building this international business, and how sometimes when we trip up, and we do, how we handle it. Like, how do we come back up and in such an incredible, with such an incredible amount of dearness and sweetness? How do we bring ourselves back up when we slip up, when we say things we don't want to say, when the pressure comes in and it's so intense that all of a sudden, you know, we're in a space we don't want to, we don't feel like it is true. It happens to us, you know, it happens to all of us. But I want to teach you, and I'm going to teach you in this community here that we're building, how to actually always get back up with more depth, more love, more dearness. So anyway, this afternoon, after the day that we both had, he came up to me and I actually said to him, "Can I have a hug?" Love asking him for hugs. And I just wanted to give him a hug, actually, and I wanted us to just be together for a moment, because we had a few other things we wanted to do before the night was over. And so he came, of course, he came up and I gave him a big hug, and he just looked at me as we pulled away from each other, and he said to me, you know, he said, you really do make the world a better place. And I mean, you know, I'm sharing that with you because I felt so touched by that. I felt so like humbled by that, because I don't know, it just really moved me. It was so beautiful. And I had no words for him, actually, really. I couldn't even thank him, to tell you the truth, and he didn't need thanks. He really, it was just so lovely, and he sees everything that I do. He knows where I come from. And even that, I don't need that. I don't need for him to say those words to me. But when we receive these little pieces of loveliness from people that we work with, people that we sometimes have difficulty with because of just the nature of life, and that we're learning, and we fall into our misunderstandings, our patternings, and we can still bring ourselves, we survive it basically, right? We still bring ourselves back to the goodness. It was just really special, and it's special that I get to share it with you. But let me talk to you about something that happened a few months ago, or a couple of months ago now. I had my dear publisher of my book, Karen McDermott, write the foreword for The Power Shift. A lot of you know that I published my book last year, #1 in Amazon, in the USA, Australia. Exciting, great fun. For me, again, you know, it was a labor of love, The Power Shift. And so once I wrote it, I just released it, and I just allowed it to just flow into the world, and without really having much of an attachment to it. But I did ask, come across, Toby had connected with Flint McLaughlin, who is, I would say he's a really amazing man. And he's the owner of Mech Labs, and you can go and look him up, and many other companies, and he's just a gem. He has so many I do believe he's a philosopher. He studied theology, and he has an understanding of marketing like I've never ever seen before. Like his book that is out, I started to read it, and as I was reading through the pages, I was just in awe. I actually met him in our first meeting that we had a business meeting, and in the first meeting that I had with him, he had me reduced to tears. I mean, I actually couldn't even hold back. I didn't even want to. I was just so moved by this man. And he's remarkable. The way he thinks, the way he speaks, the way he discerns through things. So I felt really moved to ask him if he would write the foreword for my book. Because Karen so kindly, I hadn't really found the right person, and she very kindly went in and wrote the foreword as the publisher. And I know Karen quite well. She's a beautiful woman, and I was very honoured. But she did ask me to go look and see if I could find somebody else. So Flint really came up for me. He came up for me because of his values, his integrity, his authenticity, his just such cleanness, as a human being. Like his values, everything about him, it's just amazing. And anyway, so I reached out to him after breaking down in front of him. And I asked if he would be interested in reading my book and then possibly writing the foreword. And it was interesting because it took him months and months to get back to me, and I hadn't heard anything. And again, I just put it out to my world, and I thought, you know what? I trust in him. I truly, truly trust in him. And if he's meant to write it, it'll be written. Anyway, Toby gets an email from him, and he was really, as he was reading my book, he was really discerning. And this is the beauty of this. This is why it was such a big highlight in my life. Because it wasn't just because I said, would you write the foreword, or I paid him to write it, or I just said, could you write it for me? And he said, oh, no worries. I mean, he never writes forewords ever for people. And he gets asked to write them multiple times a month, as he said. And he just never, ever writes them. Anyway, so he writes this email and shares this email with Toby saying, look, I'm discerning through the message, the book. I'm really trying to sort of align myself, la-di-da-di-da. Anyway, so I get that. Toby gets the email. He shares it with me. And I said, oh, that's fine. And I just let it go. I just thought, you know what, again, I had such incredible trust in this human being because of who he is, what he stands for. And I just knew. So, and I mean, I'm sure I haven't given him all the accolades that he deserves. I know that he has many other titles. So you can look him up. Go look him up. You should. Maybe watch a video or two of his. But anyway, so we then ended up in Florida, and of course he lives in Florida, and we decided to reach out to him. And of course I hadn't heard back about the foreword yet. And we get to Florida, and we're teeing up a time to catch up, and something pretty devastating actually happened, and it just wasn't happening. And anyway, I get an email, and I'm actually going to put the foreword up here for you, and you're going to find it, of course, in the new release of my book, The Power Shift. It is just, I mean, if you've been thinking about reading The Power Shift and, for some reason you decided that you're not going to buy it yet, or I think after you read Flint's foreword, I think you really may make that decision to buy this book. And anyway, so I get this email while I'm in Florida, and there it is. The email that Flint wrote to me prior to the foreword was that, as I said earlier, he gets multiple requests to write forewords for books, and he always says no. And yet, it was really about aligning himself with the message and what the book was saying. And I mean, it was personal, that first section, so I'm not going to share that, but I just thought, wow, every moment that I spent writing this book and sharing it with the world became worth it. And I know that there's going to be more and more that's going to begin to just continue to evolve in the world with the power shift. It's really quite amazing. So the foreword has been written by Flint McLaughlin, and I am completely I'm so honoured, and I feel just such a huge highlight for me. And I wanted to share it with you prior, with a little bit of the history of the foreword being written, and before I share it. And I will be sharing it this week for you. And of course, then the opportunity for you to go and purchase the Power Shift if you really feel like he's speaking to you. And I think that would be fantastic. And I think that it's really a part of the change that we're going to be doing here, and the coaching programs and the mentoring programs and membership programs. It's like a really beautiful foundation for those of you that are ready to really live full, nourishing, soulful lives, and with me. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to go and relax now and spend time with my beautiful husband, and I look forward to seeing you next time.